Everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're here with another episode of 1899, episode 6. We're approaching the end. We're nearing the end. Last time on 1899, the Walk of Death. We have a mysterious phenomenon happening on the ship currently, where a select few people appear to be hearing some signal pulling them to the sea, and they've all taken the opportunity to just walk right off the ship. That unfortunately includes Crester, so we've now lost Ada, we've lost Crester, at least those characters that we know. One of the things I found interesting though is the characters that I expected to be affected by this. Most of our key characters weren't hearing the signal. This seems to have been activated by Daniel, or perhaps the other shipmate. I'm not sure. That bit is still a bit unclear. But all the key characters that you thought of would not be affected by it, for the most part weren't, with the exception of Mrs. Wilson. Well, I've long said that this character has just fascinated me from the very, before I even saw the series. The whole part that she has to play in this, I think is going to be larger than we imagine. She's similar, but so dissimilar from a lot of the characters in a lot of ways, and quite contradictory in what she presents. I get the impression is not necessarily what who the person is. I could be wrong, but they've kept her alive for some reason. She was walking towards her death, essentially, and and they managed to stop the signal just in time, and she was alive and wondering how she got here. And I'm like, okay, this character, she's being highlighted. Remember the very first episode that we saw with her, that was the first episode that kind of tipped us off, when she was drinking tea and then everyone in the room did so simultaneously. She was the very first character to tip us off that, okay, something here is not quite right. I'm not sure if she's perhaps a figment of Mora's mind, because I still maintain my theory that this is all in her head, and they're in a mental institution being experimented on for some purpose. I'm sticking to that theory for the time being. I have some additions to that theory that I'm not quite clear I want to get to just yet, because it's a huge leap. But yeah, I mean, Mrs. Wilson is fascinating, and I think there's just more to her character, and I can't wait to see what other revelations there are. The Daniel and the boy did go on a little trip. We now know that these cabins are hidden spaces between the rooms. For two characters that we've seen so far, at the very least, leads to some space that takes them to their most tragic moment, or at least a traumatic moment, I should say. At least that's the theory, the working theory for the moment. There's still a whole lot of mystery surrounding why these two want to save her. I'm not sure who Daniel and the boy are just yet. I'm still seeing either they're the same and maybe brother or child. But she clearly had a relationship with Daniel that she can't recall, because there was a scene with them in the room when the captain was making his announcement about what he planned to do, and Daniel seemed quite affectionate towards her. So I do think there is some connection there. I'm just not clear what the connection is as yet. Now, as for as I've said, my working theory at the moment is still that, okay, these people have experienced something, having perhaps gone through the triangle, and I believe her father wants the device, that's the pyramid, whatever thing that the boy has, and he's trying to figure out how to access it, but I'm not sure if it's something that doesn't exist in the physical plane, or whatever the case might be. All right, still working with that theory. No, one of the things that I said I'm not ready to jump to just yet, one of the theories I'm not ready to jump on board with, because I've not gotten a lot of evidence to support it. But we have seen a few themes that have been prevalent throughout the series so far. One, the pyramid, right? I think we've been taking the whole Bermuda Triangle thing uh, a bit on the nose, even though it hasn't been mentioned in the show. Yeah, we've been taking it quite literally, but it hasn't been mentioned in the series at all so far. But one thing that has been prevalent is the pyramid, right? And the insight that we've been seeing going around, I am thinking, and hear me out, I'm thinking between I think having inspected the insect closely, it appears to be a beetle, right? I'm not sure if it is intended to be a scarab, which in Egyptian mythos is supposed to represent the sun god Re or Ra. I'm not sure exactly how it's pronounced. My history on that is a bit sketchy, but yeah, so we've seen those two things, the beetle and the pyramid, both of which are very prevalent in Egyptian mythos, right? So I'm thinking, okay, how exactly does this tie to the Bermuda Triangle? Because because we're at sea, I kept thinking, okay, this has to be it has to be the Bermuda Triangle, but the Bermuda Triangle is nowhere near Egypt, or it's in the Atlantic, right? And it's just nowhere near desert, sea. It wasn't coming together in my mind, no matter how I thought about it. And then I thought back to the first episode where she spoke about the mind and how vast it is, and it just emphasized my initial theory that, okay, this analogy being made about the mind being as vast as the sky and the sea, this very sea that we're seeing, these people trapped on the ocean, this is a representation of these characters who are trapped within their own minds. And that's what the theory I'm going with at the moment. As I said, okay, I think these people are trapped in their minds. Perhaps they experience something, but I don't believe they're actually at sea. I'm not sure if they did in fact go through the Bermuda Triangle. Maybe that's what's impacting them, or this all took place somewhere else, and the sea and the open sky is being used as a representation of how chaotic their mind currently is, and their attempt to try to kind of fit the pieces back together. At the end of the last episode, we saw Mara's father, and he was looking out, and at the window there was a pyramid there as well, the same pyramid that was in the opening for the very first episode. So I do think maybe that is what it represents. There is some connection, I guess, to the pyramids and the beetle that we've been seeing, assuming that it is the scarab. And we've seen whenever that beetle crosses a threshold, it has the ability to open doorways. I don't think it means a physical doorway, so to speak, but very much any pathway, right? So yeah, I think I'm not seeing how exactly I can tie everything together just yet, as far as the connection to Egyptian mythos, but it's still very clear that the pyramids, the beetle, very prevalent. There is some significance to it and the object that the boy has. We're not quite clear on what that is yet. So as we get more information, maybe I'll be able to piece together a more wholesome theory. But for the moment, I'm still working with my insane asylum theory. They're being monitored because her father wants the object, and the key to obtaining it is within their minds. And I think they're all at a mental facility, at least the ones that we saw on the monitors 2 episodes ago. And then on the side of that is something about Egyptian mythos and the scarab and the pyramids that I'm not attaching to my theory just yet, but I'm mentioning it because there's some potential there, but not enough evidence to support it just yet. Yeah. The mystery is coming together. It is coming together, and I'm enjoying the ride so far. Alright guys, episode 6 of 1899. Let's check it out. Ah, this is before she was pregnant. I guess we're getting her episode.
Ik Schoudlinger.
Oh, this is after she lost Ava.
Kom maar vaak, man.
Okay, no, it's before. Oh. Alright. It's her. It's her episode. Alright, so we've gotten all the characters except... Don't remember everyone who was on the monitor. Oh, calm down, calm down.
Where is my... I don't know.
Look, we're in the middle of the ocean, and the engine is down. If we don't get it up and running,
that's who we haven't seen yet. We haven't seen Angela or Ramiro. We haven't seen their story yet, so I imagine we will for the next few, at some point in the next few episodes. Those are the ones who are left.
This. We need to trust each other.
Who are key characters, I suppose. Trust. Now, this is going to be tough because the pyramid, okay. Because none of these people can really be trusted. I mean, maybe some exceptions. But they're all hiding something. And some of them are murderers. This is new. I mean, in a way, this is kind of giving the mother some credibility because they're seeing unexplainable things happening. So this enforces her belief that this is God working in some way, or the devil, or whatever the case might be. What is that? At least use something to touch it. Don't use your hand. Okay, it's still open. Is this her? I need to figure out a name to call this place. Is this her mind palace? Let's call it that. I know that's not exactly what it is, but for simplicity's sake. So is this okay? So not his mind palace, it's hers.
How is this even possible?
I don't know. But that building over there belongs to my father.
Oh. I wouldn't go there again. No, it's not a good time. I hope she's not going into labor.
The baby? When?
Can't have children, or is it Lucien that's the problem?
C'est comme toutes les choses que tu désires si fort quand t'es toute petite. Tomber amoureuse. Se marier. Avoir des enfants. Tout ça finit toujours par être le contraire de ce que t'avais imaginé.
I mean, from her perspective, it looks like you have everything. That's fascinating, man. Not sure you'd want the life that she has, though. Her mother is overbearing and very religious. It may appear that way, you know, appear free from the outside in, but...
I must go up for coffee.
Hope there's nothing up here. We also haven't seen my Olex past. It just dawned on me.
你以為我會同佢哋留喺下面啊？傻嘅咩？
Dick.
All right. Oh, it's picture of Statue of Liberty.
Girl?
No. No girl. No brat.
I like the way they do it because, you know, certain words. I mean, some of the characters know a little bit of English, enough to communicate some things. But then certain words are universal across many languages. They're not the exact same, but sound similar enough where you can infer what the meaning is or what the person is trying to communicate. Oh, she's going for it. All right, Ling Yi. At least something good is happening on this ship. He told the boy to wait here.
My father built this for my mother.
That's an odd gift. And he built her a mental hospital?
She became less and less of who she used to be. First, she just started to forget things. Eventually, us. My father, he resented us for it.
Yeah. Also the ship's hull. Yeah, so them being lost at sea, it's just a manifestation of, you know, the state of their mind at the moment.
Meus sentimentos.
One fake priest to another. Well, I'm guessing the dad's an actual priest.
Skete der noget? Bagefter begyndte Iben, kone, at høre Guds stemme.
That's her name.
Det gav en håb, når alt virkede håbløst. Jeg ønskede så brændende at mærke det samme håb. Men jeg er en løgner.
So am I. So am I.
Hvis jeg skal være ærlig. Jeg tror ikke, han eksisterer.
These moments are so much more powerful because they don't understand each other in a very strange way. And the sinner giving forgiveness to, you know, to the priest. How are you? I don't think Mrs. Wilson cares about anyone but herself.
Men det er ikke rigtigt. Den er allerede skrevet. Gud skriver vores historie.
I don't know about Mrs. Wilson either. So I'm missing quite a few people, aren't I? But is she a key character though? Because she did hear the signal and she was about to die. It feels like she's integral to the story, but not, and that's what I find so fascinating about the character. No, don't touch it. Oh. That is not coming off. Maybe I spoke too soon.
I don't know.
Although it seems like they're all about to meet their end. I love this episode. Took a completely different turn because it's now gone full on supernatural. No, things were weird before, but it got even weirder. No baby. So the past again. Frozen in time. Who is this? Oh, he doesn't have the scar yet. So is this what happened? Oh, he got shot. Yeah. That's what happened. Can't tell what's real and what's not. I mean, I'm guessing that this crewmate is the equivalent to what Daniel is, except he's working on behalf of the company. He's and Mara's father. Huh. So it's in a weird way they're inside the minds of the patients, each trying to obtain something. You know what the father wants? He wants the object that the boy has, and I'm guessing Daniel is trying to save her, but how do the other core characters fit into it? Are they having the same dream? Or, yeah, I don't know. I don't think he meant God. I think he meant whoever created this construct.
Je te laisse un moment, je vais chercher les autres. Ok.
Not sure she should be left on her own. She's experiencing some things. Should not be left on her own. And she's a pregnant woman. Why would you leave her on her own?
Krista. Krista est prêt. Kadoshmai.
Who is this guy? Hey, clearly, the guy who shot Crester. But, is he the father of her child?
Skål. Skål.
Krista? Krista? Jeg er spændt på at høre din mening.
Ah, they worked for him.
Du rørte ved min søn og tog hans uskyld.
Ah, I was right. I'm guessing he
Og nu
raped
tager jeg noget, der
Tove.
tilhører jer alle.
Hmm. I'm guessing he raped Tove, and that's why they left. He said he stole his son's innocence, so I guess this is when they found out that Crester was, you know, gay, and why the mom sort of resents him. Yeah. Yeah. You're standing there while that happens, Dad? It sucks that she had to do that herself while her mother and father are right there. I mean, Crester was just shot in the face, so I'm giving him a bit of a pass and being in shock, but why are they just standing there? Or maybe one of them does kill him. And that's why they had to run. She had to do it all by herself. I don't know. I don't want to believe. Maybe the sequence of events didn't happen exactly, because this is her mind putting things together. So maybe the incident there with her brother and the conversation with her parents happened, and then he raped her sometime after. I don't see. I don't know. Maybe I don't want to believe that her mother and father just stood there and watched that happen.
J'ai pas eu ce que je voulais. J'ai eu ce que je mérite. Quelque chose dans ma tête. Il reste peut-être que quelques jours.
So he's already dying. No point in killing him.
Tu vois, mon rêve se réalise. La chose que tu voulais, c'était de me voir mort. Maintenant, le destin s'en charge pour toi.
Oh, you kind of deserved it. I'm sorry. You kind of deserved it. You ruined this man's life, and you really didn't need to. It's amazing what telling the truth can accomplish. It gets the ship moving. Not sure it'll do them any good. You have no idea where they even are at this point. The compasses weren't working before, so they had no direction.
People are oblivious to reality. Imprisoned by their mind's restrictions.
Yeah.
And all they have to do.
I think I'm right. This is just one big mind palace that they're in. How does it connect to the pyramids?
Stop!
Don't touch it.
Don't get any closer to it. What are you doing?
Why is he so obsessed with touching strange things? No one has figured out this guy's not a passenger as yet. The captain doesn't trust him, and I mean with good reason. But yeah, he does. Start explaining.
You have to remember. Move!
I mean, we know he's definitely not working for her father, so it has to be something else. Slow down! Okay. Sent him back to his mind palace.
Where is he? What have you done with him?
It's me. Daniel. He got married 12 years ago.
Oh, okay. Husband.
You're lying!
Drop it.
I guess the thing I'm not putting together yet is how they're accessing her memories and mind, because he doesn't work for her father, so he probably doesn't have access to this facility. So how is he here? Oh,
I love you. Please, wake up.
she took his device. So is Captain Pike real? Because she seems to have developed some affections for him here in this construct, whatever it is. There he is. Lift the veil, come on. Just a hole. How does she wake up? How does she wake up? All right. So I partially got that right. I'm just not sure about the other passengers. Whether they are in fact patients as well, or are they all just a figment of her imagination? Is this the same ship? Looks... Oh, he's on a Prometheus. Yeah, he's on a Prometheus. This is not great because the Kerberos moved, right? So he's... Oh. This is a whole fleet of them. Alright, episode 6 of 1899. Another amazing episode. Revelations after revelations. But first, let's start before I dive into my long-winded theories. This was a very Tove-centric episode. We got Tove's background. And I think as I mentioned before, for central characters, we'll be getting backstory for each of them. We've gotten Mara, Captain Ike, Jerome. I guess that was it. Ling Yi, and now we've gotten Tove's story. I guess that's it of the key characters, with the exception of Mrs. Wilson, but I'm not sure Mrs. Wilson is like the others. As I've said since the very beginning, she gives me the impression that she's like everyone else, but then not really. And it kind of, kind of highlighted that in the last episode when she was about to walk off the ship because she was in a trance while none of the other characters were, but somehow she still survived. So I don't know if we'll get a backstory for her, but I still feel as though she's important. We haven't gotten... Whose story haven't we gotten? I don't think we'll... For Lucien's wife, I think her story is somewhat tied to Jerome and Lucien. Especially with the interaction that she had with Jerome a few episodes back on the pier, when he approaches her and says, the ship looks spooky. The exact words that Lucien says to Ling Yi. So there is some familiarity there. I don't think we'll get a backstory for her per se. I think her story is somewhat tied to those two characters. So we might not get anything for her specifically. But for Tove though, it was really tragic though. And I am hoping, because otherwise her parents are just horrible individuals. But what happened to her, it seems, her father, he said they were farmers, and I'm guessing they're working for this man who owned the land. And he said that Crester stole his son's innocence. So it appears this was Crester's first outing, you know, realizing that, you know, he was into men, and whatever the result of the relationship between the two of them, the father did not approve. He came back wanting to claim something, and he raped Tove. As I said, I don't want to believe that her parents, regardless of what the situation may be, just stood there and watched this man rape their daughter. So I don't want to believe that would happen. So perhaps the sequence of events were different in reality, and they had a conversation at one point, and then he later raped her or something to that effect. But who knows? Her father seemed pretty torn about the whole thing when he was talking to Ramiro, so it could be that he allowed it to happen and has regret. Whatever the case, you know, Cressler was shot in the face, so we now know how he got his scar and why she's pregnant. But what is even stranger to me is why the mother believes that this is the child of God. I do not understand that. And one of the reasons why I'm not sure the scene was in sequence, I just don't see her. We know very little about the mom, about Eben. We don't know a whole lot about her, but she does seem to love her children. You know, she seems to genuinely care for her children. So I don't see her knowing that this man raped her daughter and believing that this is the child of God. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't think so. But anything is possible. Anything is possible. I suspect maybe the mother didn't know that it was a result of rape, maybe, and she thinks it's some divine intervention and God and some Mary situation, and her virgin daughter has a child or something to that effect. But then why would she get on board with them leaving and moving to the US? So I'm not sure. It could go in either direction. Right, but that was just a horrible thing that happened to Tove, and I can see why it has put a strain on her relationship with her family. And we now know why they're moving to the US to try to get a new start, because like everyone else, they've killed someone. A lot of murderers on this ship, for the right situation or for the right reasons or not. You know, it's still murder. But yeah, outside of Tove, we haven't gotten a sequence for an opening sequence for Oleg. I believe he's a central character. We haven't gotten an opening for him or background as to why. We got a conversation with him and Ling Yi about his brother being in the States, and that's why he's heading there. So that, I don't know if that's all they'll give us. I don't get the impression that there's anything traumatic in his past that he's running away from. He seems to be going towards something, which is a bit different from the other passengers. So maybe his story is tied to Ling Yi's, and we won't necessarily get a backstory for him. That's a possibility. And the other character we haven't seen yet for is Ramiro and Angel. I think we're more likely to get their backstory because, again, traumatic incident, and that seems to be the recurring theme. So I think what we will get is for Angel and Ramiro. I would need to go back and check the monitor a few episodes back where they showed the characters. I think those characters on the monitor are who our focal characters will be. I need to go back and check that. I'm not absolutely sure. But I definitely think we'll get Ramiro and Angel's story and what happened and why they're running away. Yeah. So, all in all, we now know about this Mind Palace. I'm just going to call it a Mind Palace for now. We don't have a name for it for ease of reference. We saw Captain Ike's Mind Palace before. We saw Mara's. We got to see Tove's this episode. And that's this open space that forces them to relive some traumatic experience that they've actually had. And now, from what we've seen with the interaction with Daniel, it appears as though Mara's father is recreating this scenario, because there are some secrets that he believes are hidden within the depths of their mind, and it's a far gone conclusion at this point that the ship, the open sea, being Lost at Sea that this is all a figment of their imagination, right? It's all an analogy for, you know, the current state of their mind, psychologically, and currently they are lost at sea, right? So the vast open space and the vast open sky and sea that they mentioned before, undiscovered, is a reference to their state of being when we started the season. That, I think, is a foregone conclusion at this point. They could build on that and change that, but for the moment, that seems to be the most sensible theory. Yeah. It's still very much a mystery what Mara's father. Well, I guess it's not so much a mystery anymore. She spoke to Captain Ike about her mother's passing and how her father blames his children for their mom's die. It didn't say she died. Just that her mental faculties was, you know, deteriorating, and he blames them for that, and he became obsessed with the human mind and how to piece things back together. And I gather he experimented on his children to that end. So we know what he wants the pyramid for. He believes that pyramid will allow him, or give him the power, the ability to control the human mind and maybe fix his wife. I'm assuming that she's alive, maybe not, but I think she is. So yeah, I think that is his motivation, right? It's still a bit unclear about the mystery of this pyramid and how it came to be. Where did it come from? How does it exist in this world? And are we truly in 1899? More importantly, the technology that we've been using and or that her father has been using is more advanced. Yeah, and this goes back to I mentioned at the very beginning of this video about my alternate theory that I've not yet attached to my main theory just yet, because I think it still needs some work and still needs some evidence to support it. But the recurring themes of the pyramids, the beetle or scarab, is pointing to something in Egyptian mythos. I'm not sure. I don't recall whether there's anything in that pantheon that speaks to controlling the mind. I mean, they had a lot of gods in Egyptian mythos, so there could be one. But all I know is that the sun god Ra, I believe that was their sun god. So I'm not quite clear if that is supposed to represent the scarab. The scarab, how does that tie into controlling the mind? That bit is still unclear, which is why I'm not adding that to my main theory as yet. But it is certainly looking like that's the direction that we're heading in, that this pyramid that the boy possesses has its origin in some Egyptian mythos, but maybe the only way to access it is, or maybe the people who, I'm not sure. I don't want to throw out too many theories out there where that is concerned, because I think I'll be able to explain that a bit more once I know how exactly they're accessing Mara's mind or any of the passengers' mind. That's the thing that I'm missing. Yeah, because we saw Daniel, when Daniel revealed himself and said, okay, I'm your husband, none of this is real. We know that conclusively at this point, but Daniel is accessing Mara's mind, her father is accessing her mind, one trying to save her, the other trying to find something. But it hasn't been revealed to us how exactly they're able to access their inner thoughts. That much is still a mystery. I still believe that she's in the mental institution, but if she is, how is Daniel accessing her mind? I don't think her father would allow it. So I think once that is revealed to us, I'll be able to give some weight to my other theory about Egyptian pyramids and scarabs and so on, if it gives any validity to that theory. If it doesn't, then I'm sticking to my main theory, and yeah, they're in a mental institution, and dear old dad is searching for this object to help to help him piece his wife's mind back together. So that's my working theory for the moment. But as usual, there, with the writers of this series, as with Dark, there is always an overarching story or twist that happens that you've not yet seen, and that's probably where my second theory is working towards, what the bigger picture actually is. But I just don't have enough evidence at the moment to support that. So as we get more information on that, we can revisit and put and give some more legitimacy to that theory. All right, guys, that is it for episode 6 of 1899. This has been a wonderful mystery so far. It's just been phenomenal. And one of the things that just to finally mention in this episode, it's been prevalent throughout all the episodes so far, but I noticed it just more in this episode because there was more dialogue. I think there was more dialogue between characters in this episode than any other episodes prior, and I'm just truly fascinated by how it's done, and watching these individuals, different language, speak to each other, and feeling some sense of familiarity, right? As I mentioned in the video, despite speaking a different language, tone, body language conveys a lot. I don't remember the exact numbers, but in terms of communication, your tone and body language communicates a lot more than you actually think it does in a conversation, and that's the thing that you perceive the most when you're having dialogue with someone, what their tone is, their inflections, their body language. The words are important, yes, but so is the rest, and I love that is being highlighted in this series. I don't think it's very unique in that way, because a lot of, whether it's film or TV, and I guess because it's a rarity, because you don't often find content where characters are speaking in different languages, so it's just something that you've never seen before. But I thoroughly appreciate it, and just watching the characters speak to each other and conveying emotion through just facial expression, tone, and so on. The conversation, especially between Ramiro and Tove's father, and the sinner giving forgiveness to the dad in that scenario. Ramiro is the one who is guilty of doing something abhorrent, something truly bad. He killed a man, and he's giving forgiveness to her father. And then we had a conversation between Tove and Lucien's wife. Forgive me, I keep forgetting her name. Clementine, or something like that. But yeah, their conversation as well was truly fascinating, as well as Mrs. Wilson and Eben was really interesting as well. So, and I love those character moments where they're trying to figure out their expression, and I do wonder whether this is how it was on set. I imagine they had translators. I don't think most of these characters speak the other's language, or most of the actors speak the other's language. So I am wondering whether they gave the actors some idea as to what the dialogue would be between the two before they acted in the scene together, or whether it's a case where they're just like, okay, she's gonna be saying something to you, just react to what she's saying, and then the actors just relied on tone and body language to determine how they're supposed to respond. I think that would be too difficult, especially in an environment like that, on a set. I think that might be a bit too much to ask. So I'm gonna say that they did give each actor an idea what the dialogue is, for both the person opposite them as well as their own, because asking them to just rely purely on that alone for these scenes, especially remembering all those lines, would be a tall ask. But either way, it's you know, in execution, it's just really well done, and props to the writers for coming up with this idea, but executing it so phenomenally. Yeah, it probably won't be the last time talking about that, because it's my favorite thing about this series so far. So we'll probably come back to it at some point. Anyway, this video is going on for far too long. Thanks everyone for stopping by and checking out 1899. Be sure to post down below in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on this episode. Remember to hit like and subscribe, and I will see you for the next one.